Hello and welcome to Baking on a Budget. And in this video we are going to make a delicious golden syrup cake with homemade pouring custard. Absolutely scrumptious actually. Now, as usual, we have all of the materials over here, and what I'm going to do is run through the quantities and the cost of all of these materials. To begin with, we have 200 grams of plain flour at 10 pence. We have 1 teaspoon of bicarb, bicarbonate of soda, at 3 pence. We have 2.5 tablespoons of baking powder at 7 pence. We have 100 grams of butter at 75 pence, 100 grams of brown sugar at 29 pence, 200 grams of golden syrup at 42 pence, 1 egg, 13 pence, 150 ml of milk at 9 pence. That's for the cake. Now, total cost of that is £1.88, and we're going to get 7 delicious slices out of that, making each slice 26 pence. And for the custard, we have 500 ml of milk, which is 25 pence. We have 100 ml of double cream at 38 pence. We have 3 eggs. We're just going to use the yolks of these eggs, but I'll price them as eggs, which is 39 pence. We have 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract at 12 pence. We have 50 grams of sugar at 6 pence. And we have 1 teaspoon of corn flour, just to thicken it up a little, at 8 pence. So we're going to get 600 ml of custard out of that, and that's going to cost us £1.28. Now, servings wise, if you do a 125 ml serving, you will get 5 servings, making each serving of this delicious custard 25 pence. First thing we're going to do is get on with making the cake. And to begin with, I have a small pan on the scales, and I'm going to measure out 200 grams of this beautiful golden syrup rather. 200 grams of golden syrup. And to that I'm adding this butter. This is, I'll just get the quantity of that again. This is 100 grams of butter into the pan. And to that we're also adding 100 grams of this brown sugar. Now we want to melt all this down, so we're over to the hob. Just on a very low heat. Get the handle out the way. Yes, a very low heat, and we just want all of this to melt and mix together, and that will be beautiful. And whilst that syrup and butter and sugar is melting down, we'll prepare the other ingredients. So in the bowl we have 200 grams of plain flour. All of the conversions for this into ounces is in the description below the video as well. So we have 1, 2.5 teaspoons of this baking powder. To that I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of bicarb, and I'll just give that a quick, I'll do that with a whisk. I'll just mix that together with the whisk. There it is. That will do fine. Now we have 1 egg, and we have the 150 ml of milk. So I'm going to crack the egg into there, and I'm going to whisk all that up. Looking good. Now this cake comes together very quickly, so at this point I'm going to put the oven on, let that get up to temperature, whilst we await the sugar and syrup mix to combine. Okay, so our mixture has melted here into itself, and that absolutely smells delicious straight away. So we want to get the wet ingredients into the dry. So first of all, I shall pour the egg and milk mix. Then I shall pour the syrup, sugar and butter. Looking good. And I'll bring that together with the spoon, and then I will whisk this. Now unfortunately my hand whisk fell to pieces the other day when I was making something, so I'll do this with the electric hand whisk. I'll just get the majority of that combined and all of the dry ingredients off the side of the bowl first. It can be done with a hand whisk, it's just mine is no longer with us. So I'll just whisk it up with this for a while. that should do fine. That's just a couple of minutes and that's looking good. This is going into a 2-pound loaf tin, of which I have given a coat of lard around the tin and put the greaseproof paper in the bottom with these little tabs on, just so we can lift it out easy when it is done. So we just want to pour this in here, fairly runny batter this. That is it there. Delicious. So as I say, we're just waiting for the oven to get up to temperature. This is going to go in an oven at 170 to 180. I'll probably leave it at 170 for a while. Towards the middle of the oven to begin with, and once it's risen a bit, I'll move it down the oven just so we don't burn the top of it. So it's the oven at 170 to begin with, and the whole bake time for this will probably take about 45 to 50 minutes. But there it is, that came together really, really quickly. Okay, so whilst the cake is sorting itself out in the oven, what we want here is 100 milliliters of this heavy cream or double cream, and we have 500 ml of the milk. And I'm going to put this over just a low to medium heat. We want it to almost come to the boil. When it starts bubbling regularly, that'll be enough. We don't want it to froth up and boil over, obviously, and we don't want to burn it at all, but we do want it to boil-ish. And whilst that's happening, I'm going to separate these eggs. As I say, it's just the yolks we want for this. I will obviously save the whites for another recipe later and make a nice meringue with that, or a mousse or something like that. And I'm told, I've never tried this, but someone told me in the comments of a previous video that you can indeed freeze the egg white and save it for a later time. I think the suggestion was to put it in ice cube containers and then put it in the freezer, which sounds reasonable, sounds like a good idea. Okay, we have our 3 egg yolks, and to that I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of this vanilla extract, and as I say, in this recipe we have 50 grams of sugar. The sugar is really up to yourself. You could make it sweeter or less sweet if you wanted to. Now I'm going to whisk that up. Luckily I did remember I have this small whisk as well, because the other one is beyond repair. Get all of that combined, all of the sugar dissolved down into the eggs until we have a nice smooth creamy consistency. Okay, now I'm just going to keep an eye on that milk and cream until it gets to the state where we want it to be. Now if you can see this, it's just starting to steam a little, and it's starting to bubble up around the edges here, and I'm just keeping a very close eye on that. As I say, I don't want it to overly boil, so to speak. Okay, I'm saying that's about it. It's just starting to quiver on the top there, if you can see that, and I'm going to turn the heat off at that point. Okay, so our milk and cream has cooled a little at this point. To do that, I simply put some cold water in the sink and sat the pan in it for a few minutes, and that brings the temperature down fairly rapidly. Now we're going to add this to the egg, sugar and vanilla, but we don't want to add it all at once. We don't want to cook the eggs, so we just want to add a small quantity of that and thoroughly whisk it in. And then we'll add a little bit more, and this is just bringing the temperature up slowly. A little bit more, and okay, and at this point we should be able to get the rest of that in there. Very good. Okay, I'm just going to give this pan a quick clean out, and then we'll get this back into the pan and back on the hob. Okay, so we're just going to pour all of that back into the pan. Already smells delicious, that, you know. And we're going to put this back on the hob, again just over a really low to medium heat. You don't want anything too aggressive with the milk and the cream, otherwise it may burn and it may go beyond the point where you want it. Right, now the last thing to put into here is a little corn flour or corn starch, and as I say, what I have here is 1 teaspoon of it in some cold water, and we're just going to pour that into the mix. This will help to thicken it up. If it still isn't getting to the right consistency, it won't hurt to add a little bit more corn flour, but first I would allow it to heat up blend together, keep it mixing, keep it whisking, and as soon as it gets to a consistency which you're happy with, that's it. There we have it. Now this is just leaving a trace as you whisk it. It's leaving a slight trace in there. I don't know if you can see that, if that's coming out very clearly on the camera, but that is the way that I like it. You could continue and make it thicker if you wished. You could have taken it off earlier if you like it, prefer it more runny, but I like this just in between, you know, so it's not like a thick gloopy sort of custard and not too runny either, and for me that's the perfect consistency. Okay, so I'm going to transfer this back to my jug. That's a beautiful custard. And again, we have the spatula to clear all of that. So there it is, a homemade pouring custard. Very simple, you've just got to keep an eye on it. Putting the recipe together itself is very, very simple. Now, in a couple of seconds, that cake will be ready. We'll combine these two and see what they look like. And there it is. That's about 45 minutes that's had in the oven. It's done really nicely. A little bit browned on top, a little bit darker than I would have liked it to be. But I do think there's an anomaly with my oven at the moment. This is why I moved it down to a lower shelf, just so it's not getting too much heat from the top. So a little bit of brown on top, but this is going to be delicious. So next thing is I'm going to serve this up with some of that beautiful custard and we'll do the taste test. Golden syrup cake with homemade pouring custard. Absolutely delicious. Now this, as I say, the whole cake here came out at £1.88 and we'll easily get 7 slices out of that, 26p per slice. Oh, that's delicious. The two go so well together, the golden syrup and the custard. And the custard itself, as I say, 600 ml of that. 600 millilitres of that I got for £1.28. Heavenly. And as you've seen there, the cake takes nothing to make, it takes no time at all. And always delicious. Very similar to the ginger cake recipe. But with the golden syrup, it's got that really tasty, caramelly type of taste going on with it, which, as I say, is complemented by the custard. Look at that. That's beautiful. Yes, this will be a regular. Now, can I say, if you've enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to see more really inexpensive and absolutely delicious recipes like this, we'll be doing more meals, pasties, pies, cakes, all sorts of stuff. Please do consider subscribing to the channel for that. Many more to come. And in the meantime, I thank you very much for watching. And I'm going to really enjoy the rest of this delicious golden syrup cake with homemade custard.